Hello, this is Gene. It's Monday. We just had the Charlie Kirk memorial thing. So I have some comments about that and stuff about my personal experiences with, just say, supernatural forces in my life that I equate to God, Jesus, whatever. Um, I'm thankful that some more people have seen my videos, but at this point in my life, and you'll see it on my actual um, description of the channel, I put in there I'm an old generation X person just trying to spread my message, my experience of the world to the youth of our nation. So I'm going to be a little bit more personal in this, and you can unsubscribe with me if you don't like what I have to say. I'm fine, but I feel it's incumbent on myself to get this message out there. I don't care if only one person hears it and is affected by it and does something with his life that makes him a better person or her a person. That's what I'm here for at this point. I'm called by God to do it. Um, I'm not a person that goes to church, and I'll get into that. But just a few things about the memorial. I didn't really like part of it that becomes kind of like a GOP um, assembly or campaign promise or stop. All these people are good people for the most part. I realize there might be things in the background that's kind of like forcing all the stuff that's going on, and we have to be vigilant about that. We have to make sure that what we're actually exalting up is the message that Jesus talked about, not what the men talk about, what or these entities talk about. It's about the message that Jesus gave to all men, and we have to uh, get through all that and get through all the ego of man to get the actual message. And obviously, the most important person talked about that, and that's Erica. She forgave the shooter. Um, and I know it was very difficult as a human to do that. But that is what, as a Christian, you're supposed to do. So I look back at that, and that to me is the message of the entire thing. You can't excuse the behavior, all that, but you have to forgive them because we are called by God to do that. Now, men can invoke their punishment on this man, and he will. He might have to be shot as a firing squad, and that would be biblical as well. So, but she, as a good Christian woman, did what you're supposed to do. And I see certain things online, and I'll get to my little thing. Just want to get this out there. There are people on there saying that she's like a feminist icon because she had 3 university degrees and she waited till she was 30 to have kids and get married. And somehow that's a feminist role model. Seriously, the feminist movement, the Marxist movement, is for the destruction of the nuclear family. She is an icon for all people. If you're good enough and you can go and get your shit, she became a booty contestant. She had her degrees. She found the right man, and she had a biblical life. That is what you're supposed to do. If you have the ability to do that, and she did, she was very smart, and she's pretty, and all that stuff helps. She was touched by God for that. So, and she's obviously here for a reason. She is here to spread that. So, I am not her. I am not at the same level as she'll ever be. But my experiences with the supernatural force of God I've experienced, and I'll talk about that now. Almost everybody in my generations had to go to Sunday school or church. The idea of having a Bible in your home or talking about God was universal. We were a Christian nation back then. Back then, as I said, that this country is about 89 to 90% white, and most of those white people were Christians, or certain parts of it, right? Protestant, maybe all the way to Catholics or Mormons, and a lot of people definitely went to church. My mom went to got through the Catholic Church, and because of her life choices, she kind of like went away from it. Now later in life, she went back to it, but she kind of went away from it, but she didn't force us, but we went to Sunday school. A bus would come by and pick us up. And, back as I get older in my life, I said, well, that's probably a way that they would have some time together, my mom and my stepfather. Just while we would go to these schools or go to the Bible school, they would be able to do that. And I didn't like the fact that they would try to force you by, they're going to give you like McDonald's hamburgers if you get on the bus. So you go there, we'll give you that. And that while they're teaching you about the Bible, they would give us McDonald's. And as when I got to 12 or 13 years old, I thought that was a scam. And I went away from God because of that stupid idea. I never was but nothing happened to me when I was Bible school. Nobody took me into a back room and tried to do something with me. All they were doing was just give me the parables and the stories of the Bible and see how that affected me and what that meant and what the Bible does. So, through my teenage years, I drifted. I was very smart enough that I didn't have to do anything. I got through high school, and I couldn't do anything in college, so I went into the military. And I was going through school, and I wasn't doing well. I was doing everything I could do, but I couldn't type good enough, right? I started off as a fireman, but they came back and said you can't do that because my eyes are not strong enough. So they take me and put me on a different pathway. So I was going to be like a personnelist, which is like HR bullshit. I mean, I didn't go in the military to do something like that, sit behind a desk, but that's what I did for the first part of my career. And I'm sitting there and I had to get like 15 words per minute. And we had the old typewriters. We didn't have, it was the old ones, And I wasn't good at it. And I was only get like 12 or 13. And if I didn't get it done, I was probably got thrown out of class. Now they probably made me like a cook or a cop or something. And that's nothing against those career fields, but that's probably what would happen. And I'm sitting there. I was outside, and some of the guys were smoking, and of course I didn't do any of that. And this guy came up to me and he started talking to me. He says, "I think you're troubled about something." And I didn't know who this person was. And he started witnessing to me. He said he could feel something off of me that was bothering me. And he started witnessing me. And I can't even imagine what the word is. I can't describe it. Because he started talking to me, and I started feeling stuff in my heart. It was weird to me. It's like there's a fire in my heart, and I was like, "Oh my God!" And I'm trying to push it away. Here I'm a 19-year-old dude. I'm like, another 19-year-old man is talking like this, and I'm like, I get kind of like, what is he really trying to get with me? But I could feel it in my heart. Something had awoke in there, and he asked me if I believe in God and all that stuff, and I said, well, that's what I told you about. I thought about it. I thought it was a scam, he said. He tried to give me some of the stuff in the Bible. And he said, just let me pray to you and then, see if you could give your life to God. And I sat there and I kneeled down and I gave my life to God, to Jesus. I was saved at that point. And the next day, and it's crazy this sounds, the next day, the teachers came in and said, "Hey, we got some good news." They came out with the IBM Selectric typewriters, the one that you could just do like this, right? They were electric. And I'm like, holy shit. And I got on there and I got to 20 really quick. And I'm like, okay, this is not God doing this. It was already in the pipeline. They were going to do it anyway, but we didn't know nothing about it. And I'm like, I'm not saying that made me believe that was God, but it was coincidental at that point. I have several instances in my life that something has stopped me from doing something so stupid, killing myself, just making the wrong choices, but then allowing me to still be around. And I'm not alone in this. And I know that people are going to say, no, Gene, what about the other people that never get a chance, right? Something happens, the plane comes down, kills a baby on board. These are all things that I can't explain why that happens. But I can just say, as I go back in life and look at these episodes of my life, I know that those are times in my life that somebody did something. It's a force of something. I'm not saying it was Jesus or a guardian angel. I think there were several times later on in my life that things happened. I think that there was something there. And it's one of those things that God gives you the choice. That gives you free will, but he allows you to be courageous. He allows you to be patient. He allows you to do that. He doesn't give you patience. He doesn't make you courageous, but he gives you the ability to be courageous. So those those people that go to the fires when they don't have to, the standby people that go and do stuff in there and they end up dying, or people who can't even swim when they see somebody dying in the ocean or something like that, they go in and try to save them. This is the ability to be courageous that God gives you. So all that through my life. Of course, I went overseas after that. I passed the course. I went overseas. We had the terrorist bombing that happened where I was at, and two people died that day. But that morning, I felt something almost tug me to wait to go in that morning because I was 2 minutes late, and I was never late ever. I was like, I'm still that today. If I have an appointment now, I'm always there 15 minutes early. But that day and I felt something pulling me back. I got out the dorm, and it just, somebody like held me, and then I kind of like shrugged it off, and I kept going. And about probably 20 seconds after that, the bomb went off, and it shook the entire base, and I went down to my knees because it knocked me down. And I was probably 200 yards away from where the epicenter of the bomb was. So I'm not saying, again, I was being saved by God, but something happened to me that morning that I knew something was going on. It's like, this is not the time for you to go, right? Because I would have walked exactly where those people were that died. If I'd have left and didn't get somebody stopping me somehow, that I would have been there at the time that happened. Now, again, it doesn't negate those two people that died. Beautiful young woman who was the secretary for the base commander, and then just a dude that was overseas doing his 2 weeks that he had to do on the National Guard or a reserve. Can you imagine that morning he's going over to Germany, he's going to have a good time, and he goes in early to check in, and that happens. And, imagine the effect it had on his family. And there are several other things that talk about me specifically that I felt his presence. But probably the biggest one for me is when my second son was born. I obviously felt it after Ryan was born. I did. In the room, I felt something there. But when my son, who has issues, he coded like 4 or 5 times, several different times, right? And it's not that, again, that God was not there or Jesus was there to stop him from dying. It was given him, my son, the courage, the fight to fight on, and allowing that to happen. Because knowing Kyle, if you knew him, which you don't, he is the most gentle, likable, full of life of any person I've ever met in my life. And this is a reward I was given by God every day of my life. I know this. And I know that there was somebody, and when you go back, it's like watching a movie, like watching the Six Signs or Six Signs. I can't say the word. The one with Bruce Willis. You go back and you see, oh, you can see it there. And there are other movies that are like that. Oh, you can definitely see it now when you watch it. And you could do that with your life. You can go back and say, he was fucking there. Something was there. You see a bird that totally different than any bird you've ever seen, and then you hear somebody in your family had died, 30 minutes before that. You didn't know it, but then all of a sudden you're sitting out here and you see this weird bird that has never been here before. It just sits there and just look at you. It just sits you on top of my fence over there, and I've never seen this bird before, and I'm out here all the time. I know most of the birds that come around here. They come back, then they go a little bit south, and they come back. They try to build nests in my yard and stuff. These are basically the same, at least, species of bird. And then you see this totally different bird. I can't even really describe it. And then 30 minutes later, I find out that somebody in my family died like an hour before. And I don't know if that's anything, but it's just, I know that there's been people talk about that. They see something, they see a red bird or something like that somebody, or a butterfly or something like that. But just talking about Kyle, there have been several times that he almost died on us. And there was never a time that I ever thought he would die. My faith was so pure that I thought maybe it was denial, right? But he did. He died 4 or 5 times and came back. And now he's where he is now. He's strong. Just an unbelievably smart, caring. He will help anybody. He will help anybody. And he wanted to go. I'm telling you what, my little son, who's about 80 pounds, he's 26 now. He wanted to go. He was ready to go to Arizona and do something. He was going to do something. He wants to fight because he knows what's right and wrong. Right? He knows what's evil and not good. He understands all that. He can't talk. He can talk with ASL, and some words he can say. But he is just he is really he's a warrior for God in a lot of ways. And I have not forced my belief systems on all my kids. And I'll tell you this, even though I was witnessed and I had that happen to me, as humans, I forgot about that. I forgot about what that meant, how important it was to me in my life, how it actually impacted me that night. I just, oh, that's just me. That's my brain telling me this. And, maybe at that time I really need someone to talk to me. I don't know. And then when my kids started to get a little bit younger, past the certain things, they started questioning their faith. And I sat there and didn't really push it back. I didn't sit there and say, I believe in God. I just said, I said that, well, you need to really look it for yourself. You need to understand how it feels for you. Laissez-faire shit, instead of saying, no, this is the God of all God. So they've had issues with it. The kids that I raised, my stepdaughter and my sons, Kyle believes in God, always has. Ryan, my son, has had problems with it, but he's coming back to it. He has tried to find something to fill that hole in his heart. A lot of that's been addictive shit, doing stuff he shouldn't have done, but not any more stupid than a lot of people do when they're that age. But he is looking for things, and a lot of it's just the culture right now for young men. It's hard, and we talk about this on this channel. But he wants that guidance. He wants to be discipled. He wants to be somebody like that. But he's still a very liberal person, and he's one of those people that he won't allow himself to be witnessed yet, right? But he knows, and hopefully for him that he moves on from that. But a lot of that's on me. And again, if I would have been really forced it on them, would they be so against it now? Both of them are looking. They don't have their own certain. Some do. Some part of them they do have their own worldview. My hope for both of them is that they have kids. I don't know if my daughter will, because she's with another woman, but I just think that Ryan needs that, and I think that will probably open him up even more. So as a Christian, I probably failed in that, and all I can do is when he comes and talks to me, because he likes to have these conversations with me, and I usually try to push it back to that. I said, you have to understand that things that if you think it's just your brain doing all that stuff, you have to say to yourself, okay, I believe this because my brain said that. Somebody was witnessing me, and I felt my heart get warm and all that stuff, but it's still my brain and its chemicals that's in there that's doing it. Then you have to ask yourself, who made the brain? Do you think that we're just a product of evolution? This is what it showed. Why would evolution be that way? Why would evolution sit there and say, you know what we're going to do at the end of your life, we're going to see a white light. And we as Christians think that's our way to get to heaven, right? We're just going to go there and see God and everybody else. But no, the evolution say, no, that's just part of evolution. But why would it be that way? Why would it doesn't allow us to continue to evolve as a species when you're already dying at that time? It doesn't allow to propagate the species any further. There has to be a creator. And then the question is, if you really want to be academic about it, it's like, okay, which one is the best one, all that stuff. And that's what, well, the people over in East Asia doesn't know anything about it. It comes to this point. The only religion that says we are basically martyred for our belief system is the Christians. We are supposed to forgive everything our enemies do, and we're supposed to sit there and just die for Jesus without really any question, because it's totally different than any other religion. Now, you can look at it and just be hard about it and say, well, it's just a stupid one then. But I know what I've seen in my life, and it's very hard for me to articulate them. But when you go back, as you get older, you will. And yeah, the idea is now when you go back and you look at it differently, right? You have rose-colored glasses when you go back. Okay. But when you get, I'm just telling you, when you go back and you remember, and you're like, oh shit, there was somebody right by, oh my. There, I could, you will hear it. I felt a presence in that room. The air in the room changed. I'm sitting there watching my son coding for the third time, and I could feel a presence in the room. It got physically a little bit warmer in that room in a certain area. It didn't get cold. You can think about like ghosts and stuff. This felt like a warm love, like almost like a blanket. It's like you get that point of like, well, maybe that's he's being called up. But I don't say he touched Kyle and brought him back. I'm saying I think he said, Kyle, it's not your time. And Kyle just said, okay, I'm ready, let's go. And he did what he did. And I'm going to tell you, that boy fought for his life 4 or 5 times. And it's croaking me up right now because he is so strong. And right now he's still so strong. He will do anything. Like I said, he's a little over 4 foot. Was he 4'7"? He's 80 pounds. And he will go in front of anybody, doing anything to his brother, who's bigger than him, 6 foot. He will get in front of them. So I know there's no question in my life. And again, people are going to say to me, well, what about other people? Why are you selected? I'm not. He was selected. It's not me. Okay? Every newborn baby is created by God. And that's why people on the right, or those who are pro-life, are so disgusted, disheartened when we kill so many in the womb, because this is a creation of God. Yes, you got the man and the woman, but it's still, every time that happens, I'm going to tell you that God is shedding a tear each time that happens. And it's very fortunate that he has not killed us because of it. Now, there's going to be some judgment coming. But anyway, let me just stop there because I've been talking quite a bit. I don't think it's going to, I don't care if you guys unsubscribe from me. I'm just letting my faith out there. I still don't go to church. You know, and I guess I'll say this before I leave. When Trump sits there and says we have to have religion back in the country, that's not what we need. We need to follow the teaching of Jesus Christ. You don't have to go to church for that. I know a lot of people, the Catholics, will say you have to. And my wife's a Catholic now. I get all that, but having the covenant that you have with God is from here to Him. Now, as a community, you should be together and help each other. You should be biblical in that sense, right? You should help each other out. But you have that covenant with God, and you can do that alone. And religion is a man-made thing. And you have to worry about the egos and the biases that men have, and especially when greed is involved. And that was a little bit concerning with me. I don't like that the left said that now it's a Nazi rally, all that shit, whatever. But the point is there going to be a revival in this country? I hope there might be. We have to be very careful who is behind it and who's running that. We still have to be Christians at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we cannot go out and all of a sudden now we're going to kill our enemies, like Trump almost said yesterday. So we have to be Christians in the end. So I'm going to stop right there. Let me know if anything in your life that you had a witness that happened to you. When you go back in your life now that something happened to you and then you went back and said there was something else, and I call it supernatural, right? Because it's not natural. He has the ability to be anywhere at any time. He can dominate time, space, and anything else, whatever that word is. I forget. That's why he can do anything at any point, at any time, because he made everything. So it just, at this point, if you're scientific, if you believe in science, the science points to a creator. It absolutely does. People talk about a simulation theory. Well, who's making the simulation? And all we can hope at this point is if we're all a stimulus, we're part of Matrix or whatever you want to call it like that. We just got to hope that we have a benevolent God. And I believe from my experiences of life that there is one and only one, and that's Jesus and his Father. 3-on-1, as they say. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk about it later. Maybe we'll talk later in the week about Manchester United and where we go and stuff that doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot. Stuff like this means a lot, especially later in my life. I feel I have to get this out, especially to young men, And I want women to watch this channel as well, but we are the ones that have to lead forward. And you have to look at somebody like Charlie Kirk as not as an icon but just somebody as a blueprint of living a life, of how you should do it as a Christian. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.